Wanderer here, and welcome to Ivil Say Orway Update. The Supreme Court gave us all the finger. The Supreme Court of the United States just gave 20 states and the current sitting president of the United States and all of the many hundreds of thousands or millions of voters who that represents. And I just don't see how they were able to turn their back on us. But here's the point. The 20 states that back Texas in this lawsuit are probably the 20 states that if push come to shove, we would rebel against the new communist republic of the United States. And, it's just really a matter of whether or not our incoming commander-in-chief, whether or not he's going to be a decent Joe and just try to run the country, or whether he's going to become an authoritative thug. Now, he's chosen as vice president definitely a dyed-in-the-wool authoritative thug with a history of thuggery. Okay? He brought into his administration as vice president a person who intentionally left a innocent man rotting in jail when she had the power to free him. And she knew that he was innocent and there on fraudulent accusations. But instead of making his life easier, she had to cover her back and try to keep an innocent man in prison. So we know that you-know-who is KH. We'll start calling her KH. We know that she is, in fact, an authoritative thug and wants to, by executive order, confiscate legally owned property that is protected by the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. So she's a person who does not respect the Constitution. That was clear in their debates. So Joe Biden says that he believes in the Second Amendment and that executive order confiscation of, we'll just call them AWs, all right, you know what I'm talking about, your pew-pews, your Rudy Tooties. But, he's saying that confiscation of these is impossible because they're protected by the Second Amendment and that he refuses to do that. But we also know that Biden has issues. Biden has health issues. Biden's got a lot of issues. We won't talk about Biden's family issues. We won't even talk about Biden's own corruption issues. We'll just talk about Biden's health issues. He is not a young man, and he slips in and out of coherency on camera, and he's been doing this the whole time. And a lot of conservatives, Republicans, freaked out when Nancy Pelosi made some statements about the 25th Amendment and how you remove a president who's been incapacitated. And everybody thought that this was more of the plot to get rid of Trump. But I believe, along with many others, that this is actually the investigation by the left of how they get rid of Biden. See, Kamala couldn't get elected, right? Pocahontas couldn't get elected, okay? The American people didn't like them and wouldn't have chosen them, all right? The aging baby boomers who are still Democrats, the Clinton Democrats, right? These and the Obama Democrats, but more importantly, the older crowd, the Clinton Democrats, the Bill Clinton Democrats, to get it right. These people are aging. Many of them are retired or in nursing homes even. And so it's these people who get mainly a diet of mainstream media and don't know how to work the internet that is keeping the hardcore leftists from taking total control of the Democratic Party. And, read the writing on the wall, America. The leftists are going to take control of the Democratic Party as soon as Biden-age people start to pass away. The world changes when one generation dies and relinquishes power to the next generation. And the next generation of Democrats are not Democrats at all. They're communists. Okay, they're AOC, they're Antifa. And so they couldn't get one of their radical, change-oriented progressives into the White House. They knew that. So they bait and switch you with Biden. So they give you Biden, knowing Biden could be easily removed, or even by Biden's most recent statements, he's suggested that if there was too much controversy in his own White House, that he might actually step down under the guise of illness and turn it over to someone else to run the country. So, and we know who that other person would be. And so really we're dealing with a Harris administration. Even the two of them get confused during the campaign and refer to their future administration as the Harris-Biden administration, putting her first. So as much as I would like to take a breath about the Second Amendment and gun confiscations under Biden, I understand that the real president, whether Biden steps down or not, is going to be Kamala. President Kamala. And the writing is on the wall because many of you who are plugged into the Second Amendment crowd are aware of this. Those of you who are international viewers or who do not follow things so closely may be hearing this for the first time. But the ATF has already radicalized, moved into operations, and started busting people to basically grab an end of the Second Amendment and all the freedoms that we enjoy and start pulling to unravel the whole mess. So the first unraveling was the arbitrary reclassifying pistol braces as illegal, forcing millions of people with guns that were totally 100% purchased legally from a licensed gun dealer with the blessings of the ATF. And now, overnight, millions of you are going to be classified as felons if you don't destroy or turn in your short-barreled rifle with your pistol with a pistol brace, which they now classify as any other weapon. But really, it's violating the short-barreled rifle portion of the law. So, you know, it wasn't before because they said, "Oh, that's okay, that's not a violation," and now they're like, "Nah, we're going to say that's a violation." You know, that's bait and switch. This is what authoritarians always do. Authoritarians always bait and switch you. They promise you the olive branch. They promise you the gift. They promise you the shiny toy. But then they give you the switch, right? They switch you. They give you the club. They offer you the olive branch and they give you war. They offer you the truth and they give you a lie. And, they promise the truth and they deliver a lie. So this is how they work. And so they bait and switched us with the short barrel rifle / pistol braced ARs. Okay. Once again, just to make it perfectly clear and maybe avoid a freaking stupid search warrant at my place, I don't have any of these short weapons. I think they're handy as a pocket on a shirt. I'd love to have one. I love pistol caliber carbines as short in a package that you can legally get them, but I never went down the pistol brace and the short barrel rifle road because I suspected it was a trap. And so likewise, I never went down the ghost gun path. Hey, wouldn't it be nice to buy an 80% made gun and finish it yourself with very little expertise or effort and have an unserialized ghost gun in your possession? I can think of a lot of reasons why that would be kind of cool. Not to mention just the funness of making your own gun, right? Well, millions of Americans have done that, and then recently, and once again, I'm preaching to the choir, many people, every gun channel in America right now is talking about this topic, where they went after Polymer 80, one of the biggest manufacturers of 80% lower kits. And the one in particular they were after, when you were done with it, you'd have yourself a clone of a Glock pistol. And it gives you everything you need to complete the task, and all you need is some files and a drill press. So if you have files and a drill press, you can get this kit from them and build yourself a Glock, right? Well, these build-it-yourself Glock kits were legal by the ATF definitions right up until recently. Right up until recently, they decided, nope, those are firearms, and all of you manufacturers that have made those are now on the hook for all of the firearms taxes, all of the licensing fees, because you don't have a license to be a manufacturer and distributor of firearms, right? So all these things you sold were illegal. And we want your customer list of all the people that bought them. So what they're going to do is they're going to cross-reference this customer list with anybody who's a prohibited possessor. And they're going to start busting those people. And furthermore, I think that the people that aren't prohibited possessors, the remainder of the customer list of people that have these are going in the file, buddy. They're going in the file for future confiscation references. So they got the serial numbers and the buying, purchasing records of everyone. So it's basically, nowadays in the world of computerized information, we, for all intents and purposes, have a gun registry. And these ghost guns were a loop in there, a loophole, a fly in the ointment of future gun confiscation. And they're closing the loophole, preparing for future gun confiscations under a President KH, perhaps. But, you know, they seem to know ahead of time who the president was going to be. They didn't doubt it at the ATF for a minute, but they had the green light from Biden to do everything in their power to get every legal gun owner that they can in trouble, labeled as a lawbreaker, and honeypotted, tricked, trapped into becoming a felon, where they've got to either pay all these back taxes or go to prison for it. So that's what it's going to boil down to. Can you pay for all of these devices that you sold? Can you go back and retroactively pay? If you can't, you're going to prison, and so is everybody that is associated with your company. We're going to get you on every way we can, and all your customers who purchased from you, they're all going to go in the list. And if any of them were prohibited possessors, they're all going to get swatted. So what you're going to see is a rash of ATF raids that's going to shake the world, okay? And they're going to find anybody who has pushed the limit. If you pushed any rule by intentionally or by accident, right? If there's a paper trail back to you on this in any way, credit card information, all that, you're on the chopping block, buddy. And I got to say, purchasing firearms the way I purchased them, I believe, yes, every firearm I own was purchased with a background check. Okay, and a lot of them got pawned along the way, so they got background checked again as I sold them, into the pawn system, and then bought them back when I paid off my loan. Right, then that had me buying them again and filling out a background check. So my guns have been background checked a ridiculous number of times. It's the first thing goes to the pawn shop when I get to where I can't make ends meet. Is my gun collection. But those days are kind of gone, because my gun collection now is just what I consider a brace and a backup. What is a brace? A rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun. What is a backup? Well, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So I don't have any firearms that I can just sell. So I'm kind of, my back's against the wall. I have to dig into, my musical instruments, which is a sin if you're a musician. It's a sin to hawk your gear. Too many musicians got really cornered because they hawked their gear and they couldn't make their music to pay for their supper. They couldn't feed themselves because they gave up their tools. Same with mechanics who hawk their tools. It gets you in a corner. You can't work. But anyway, that was a side bunny trail. So the ATF has linked arms with the new administration, and they're beginning what I can only describe as a massive persecution of gun owners on any and all technicalities, right? So I'm glad that all my guns are, they're going to have to pass a assault weapons ban and then get past the state of Oklahoma and then get past me and the bullhound to get into my gun safe, right? But a lot of you who bought those 80% lowers may get a visit. The visit could just be a knock on the door or a letter or a phone call from the ATF, and they could very well SWAT you too if they want to. So I suspect a lot of people getting swatted in the current environment is not going to appreciate. I know if you go to swatting people in Oklahoma, you might have the neighbors, while you're dealing with your bad guy, you might have neighbors behind you who see you ATF or whatever alphabet soup organization is currently involved in the persecution. The neighbors might see you as the problem. So just saying, it could be a dangerous endeavor. And you could see a lot of flare-ups, violent flare-ups over this. I suspect anytime a bunch of masked armed men descend on a homestead, kill the dog, and kick the front door in, that method is going to more often than not provide you with a violent encounter, and people are going to get killed. I spent several hours yesterday. This is kind of stuff I do when I get cold weather moves in, and especially if I'm convalescing from the previous day of overdoing it, which yesterday was that way. I cut a couple of ricks of firewood and stacked them and split them a couple days ago, and it had me laid up. So I watched several hours of SWAT team training, trying to train these entry teams. Now, this was Israeli military training American law enforcement on how to do these assaults into a room without shooting each other. Because most of the time you have officer-involved shootings, they're shooting each other because they panic and they just start laying down the lead. And, that's what happened down in Houston, if you remember, when the couple and their dog were murdered by the Houston SWAT team. The Houston SWAT team shot themselves up in the process. So friendly fire is a real thing. But I just can't see how this isn't going to end in a lot of violence, as this campaign against firearms is persecuted. Sorry, I was distracted by the bullhound here barking. Radar, shh. He barks at animals, and I can tell the difference between him barking at animals and barking at people. It's a different bark. But anyway, back to the video. So, 17 minutes in here, what's next? We talked about how we got Ooscrayed by the Supreme Court. They won't hear the case. And I believe, I'm with Thomas, Justice Thomas, on this. He says it's mandatory when one state sues another state, or in this case 20 states sues another state, then the Supreme Court must hear the case. They must hear evidence, because that's the only recourse. Arguments between the states don't go to regional courts. They go straight to the Supreme Court by the Constitution. And because of that, because they have no other recourse, I believe the Supreme Court is required to hear this case. But they don't believe so, and there's nobody over them. There's nobody, beyond that. That's it. That's the penultimate. There's no place to go from there. That's why Trump's screwed. We're going to have a new president on January 20th. And this could potentially mean chaos for America. Because when the left didn't accept our president, they burned cities, had mad fits, burned down their own neighborhoods, screamed, tore their clothes, howled at the moon at night in concert. They did everything in their power. And that's the thing, is they're kind of powerless. The left on the street level is kind of powerless. All they can do is complain and gripe. But the people on the right, that's where the smart people are. And I know that Hillary Clinton would disagree, calling us all deplorables. Obama thinks we're stupid rednecks. But the bottom line is, all of the people who design bombs for the United States government mostly live in the South, mostly live in Texas. The people that make missiles, the people that make nuclear weapons, the people that make airplanes, the people that make helicopters, the people that design new weapon systems, the people, honestly, a huge portion of your medical community is now based in the South too. And so, Texas and Oklahoma and, this is, people used to think we're stupid. This is where the smart people are. LTV, Bell Helicopter, all this stuff is in the South, right? It's in Texas. And, so when smart people become rebellious against the government, they don't tear their clothes and throw a 4-year-old mad fit. They don't paint their face red and pull out their hair. They don't run through their own neighborhood setting things on fire, right? They make plans. They make earth-shattering, world-changing, planet-destroying plans. Okay? When this is why the two most dangerous things you can do is fight a fool or a really smart guy. Because a fool you can't predict because they're an idiot. And a really smart guy is just going to outthink you at every turn, you know? And so these idiots on the left have picked a fight with smart guy. So what do we do now that we have no recourse? The state of Texas, the state of Oklahoma, and the other 18 plus states who signed on to this lawsuit have had, they've received the rebuttal from the Supreme Court, and now they have no place to turn. What's next? And I think a lot of this has to do with this Biden-Harris administration, or Harris-Biden, as it were. If they conduct themselves in a non-authoritative way, if they do spend the next 4 years just trying to smooth all this stuff down, if they can find it in their heart some way to become fair so that they prosecute people on the left with the same rule that they prosecute people on the right, then maybe we got a chance, right? Maybe we got a chance of working this out. If they'll treat the people on the left the same as they do the people on the right and give everybody a fair shake. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt too. I'm sorry. A dancing purple unicorn might just appear on the screen right now doing the cha-cha right here in my lap. But anything's possible, I suppose. But it seems like a giant fantasy of false hope and misplaced hope and dreams to think that we are going to get anything but 4 years of direct onslaught persecution against Trump supporters. They're telling you, we got this lady, this bald-headed lady that Crowder says she looks like RuPaul. But you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm sure you've seen the video. If not, just Google Michigan senator threatens Trump supporters. Okay? And in it, she says, now to all you Trumpsters, this is a video with this elected official, this Democratic elected official, who I believe was part and parcel to the steal that went on in Michigan. Okay? She says, okay, to all you Trumpers. All right, well, she's talking to me. I'm a Trumpster. All right. Walk lightly. Well, to that I would say, I always walk lightly and carry a big gun. I should have an actual gun to show you. But honestly, in this environment, YouTube might banish me just for showing you my gun finger. Pew, 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 pew. Bang, you're dead, apparently. I'm probably going to get in trouble. But yeah, this lady, she says, all you Trump supporters, walk softly or easily or something. And then she says, because we're not playing with you. Where I come from, when a man, in this case, well, I won't misgender the person. We'll just say this bald-headed freak. But when somebody tells me, look, I ain't playing with you. In Texas, we call them fighting words. It'd be that point that my left hand would go up, my right hand would go on my gun and go, I didn't know we were playing a game. What game are you playing, pal? You better take a step back. I'm bracing for the sucker punch when somebody says, look, I ain't playing with you. If I tell you I ain't playing with you, you better back the hell up from what you're doing. Because you're about to face my wrath and all my skills, and even though I'm old, adrenaline can make up for that, at least until I'm 70. Yeah? I can do what I could do when I was young. I can only do it once. And then I need a week in the hospital to get over it. Which won't do you much good. You'll still get the same effect. So this woman says in this video, to all you Trumpsters, you need to walk softly. We ain't playing with you. Then she says, and to all the soldiers out there, you know how to do it. Do it right. Do it in order. And make them pay. That does not sound like reconciliation to me. That doesn't sound like, America healing to me, right? That sounds like a straight up threat. So, people down in Texas, people in Oklahoma, we're about sick and tired of your threats. We're sick and tired of catching you in criminal behavior and nobody at the federal government doing a dad blame thing about it. We got Hunter Biden's laptop with all kinds of filth and criminal behavior on it, and he's up there on the stage with his dad accepting the freaking presidency of the United States. He's right up there. He's going to be in the White House. This crackhead pedophile's going to be in your White House. Doesn't that make you angry? We're about sick of it. You can go, oh, you better look out. We're going to get you. Well, here's my wrath. Come and get some. And I think that little theatrical display right there of anger for you is very representational how most of us are feeling in those 20 plus states that filed this lawsuit against this criminal coercion that has infiltrated our government. It's corrupt from the top down. We're sick of it. And secession is on the table. Now, I just jetted from the state where secession is most likely to occur. The state of Texas had it written into their original treaty with the United States. Yes, they have a treaty with the United States that is still technically in play. It allows Texas to do things other states can't do, like split into 4 states if they want to in Texas, or to secede from the Union. And I don't know why God moved me to Oklahoma, but he did. But if a civil war starts, I'm on the front lines. I really wasn't in Texas unless some threat comes up through the border, right, in some greater conflagration. If the Chinese tanks roll over the border down there in Texas, everybody's screwed and I'm in a safe spot. But God might have moved me here to put me on the front line, because I can't see Oklahoma not just joining Texas. They might be the first. They're redder than Texas. Oklahoma is more conservative than Texas, and they're more libertarian, freedom-minded, conservative types in Oklahoma. The Texans can be a little bit authoritative, and Oklahomans, I think, are a little more laid back. But at the same time, if you violate the Oklahoma standard, it's the quickest way to get an Oklahoma to hate you. And the Oklahoma standard is basically honor and chivalry. It's just old school politeness and Southern hospitality and looking out for the weak and stopping bullies and helping people alongside the road and holding open doors for little old ladies, Boy Scouts helping grandma across the street, that kind of thing. And when you go to violating any of that, it just Oklahomans can become quite combative quite fast. And so I just don't see Texas seceding without Oklahoma joining them. Will the other 18 states in this lawsuit that was shot down by the Supreme Court, would they follow suit in secession? I do know this. I can't see the state of Oklahoma letting the federal government come down here and terrorize its people. I can't see the state of Texas letting the federal government come down here and terrorize its people. And if they want to make us pay, right, and they're in control of the government, right, then what we're going to be looking at is a government persecution against Trump supporters. And I think we'll have to rely on our state and local law enforcement officials and politicians to repel this northern invasion. And it's not all north, Montana, I think, is on our side, and Wyoming, is on our side. And, I think Indiana signed on with Nebraska might even end up joining, in some kind of secessionary movement. I will say this, that we really don't have a problem with North and South. We have a problem with urban versus country, really. And all of these states, these battleground states, are pretty much red except for the big cities like Detroit, Philadelphia, Austin, Dallas, down in Texas. In Georgia, it's Atlanta. In Oregon, it's Portland. In Seattle, it's, in Washington, it's Seattle. And the rest of those states are pretty red. So what we might end up with are city states that that decide to have their own set of laws. Like the Biden-Harris campaign may not come after assault weapons by executive order, but they may permit the local jurisdictions like Portland, Seattle, to have their own bans, right? They may figure out some way to protect them, and let them do the confiscating in their cities and leave the country people alone, because the city people probably aren't going to fight them. Really. I just don't see anybody. Even if they did, they'd be quickly overran. The big problem with going after the country folk is we're all on the same page, and you got to go past 500 houses through the wilderness before you get to mine. And that gives you 500 chances of being waylaid by my neighbors. And if you do come down there and brutalize somebody in one of these rural neighborhoods, rural country areas, you may have a hard time leaving. It's like the Roach Motel. You can check in, but you can't check out. So these are definitely interesting times to be alive. I feel like that when the Supreme Court gave us the finger, it left us with two choices: knuckle down and accept what we believe to be an illegitimate president and hope for 2024, right? And hope Biden's going to be a good Joe, okay? Which I think is what we're probably going to do first. We're probably just going to go, okay, let's see what he does, right? However, if Kamala is able to prod him into becoming some kind of authoritative thug, even if he comes at us like Bill and Hillary came at us in the 90s, at this point, it's insult to injury. It's salt in the wound. If anybody listening to this video has the ear of anybody in charge in D.C. on the left, listen to this. We are injured. We are insulted. For 4 years, you've been calling us Nazis and racists and hateful people. For 4 years, you've been promising to take our guns, make us pay, impeach our president. You threatened to kill him. You threatened to behead him. You threatened to stab him to death in various different ways where you get around the actual threat laws by calling it art. We've been called deplorables. We've had our cities burned. We've had our activists kicked off of all of these public forums. And, we are the insulted party. You made a big deal out of Trump, but if you think about it, Trump didn't do anything but good things for America and good things for minorities. In fact, if you just want to look at the numbers, and we'll go up to the COVID thing, because after that, nothing else matters, but up to that point, up until March 2020, so the over 3 years of presidency, minority and leftists got the best treatment under any presidency. Lowest unemployment in American history for African Americans. There are more of them involved in the economy than ever before. Right up until this, well, I'm not even going to name it, this worldwide disaster. We'll just call it that, okay? I'm losing my desire to fight on this platform. I'm going to reward you guys who have been into this video for over half an hour now with a little news. I'm making plans to move this channel off of this platform because I'm getting sick and tired of talking in code. I'm getting sick and tired of seeing my fellow patriots on this network be victimized by authoritative thugs in its own algorithm and censorship programs that they deny are there but are still there. Obviously, they're just censoring people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking more and more frankly until they kick me off. Or they disable my channel or whatever. And meanwhile, I'm going to set up stuff on the other end of this deal. I'm tired of being censored, so I'm going to start speaking my mind. There's the announcement for you. It's coming. So, do you think modern Americans in these 20 states Do you think even if we're persecuted, even if our backs are against the wall, do you think we have the chutzpah, the inner fortitude, the spine, the backbone to stand up and fight for our freedoms like our forefathers did? You know, people call us the laziest and most out of shape and most selfish and hedonistic generation in the history of humankind. And but still, tyranny is a great motivator. You know, when they take, here's the thing: as long as they give you the cake in the circus, I think most people are gonna chill as long as they get bread and circus. You know, as long as they get the NFL on time. This is why these people don't understand. If you start messing with these people's visual heroin, you know, their sports, their shows that they watch to escape reality, okay, and you drag politics and this political and cultural war into those environments, you're going to lose these people. Furthermore, you might wake them up. You know, when when a mama bird builds a nest for her babies and lays her eggs, it is, have you seen a bird nest up close? It's an incredible feat to think of. A bird did this with nothing more than a beak. Can you imagine building something with only this ability? Just that's all you can do is use those two fingers. What are you going to build with just those? Can't even hold the other side. I mean, but yet a bird builds this magnificent nest and they line it with the softest material they can find. If they can find yarn, anything like that, they'll put it in there. You know, grasses, leaves, their own feathers, animal fur, and they'll weave it until this nice soft bed is there for the baby birds. And as long as the baby birds are in that nice soft bed and their mama brings them food, everything's good. And if the mama kept doing that, the baby birds would never fly on their own. They would never become grown-up birds. They would never rise to the occasion. They would just stay in that little bed, and if she kept feeding them, they'd just be full-grown birds, completely atrophied and unable to fly or even walk. And the mama bird knows this. So she intentionally starts removing the nest softness. And instead of weaving in soft things into the nest, she starts to weave in thorns, and she pulls and all of the stuff that she works so hard to make comfortable for them. As they mature and it comes time for them to fly the coop, as it were, she makes their situation unbearable. She stops feeding them as much. She makes them uncomfortable and unhappy, and that causes them to rise up and take the plunge and fly out and find their own more comfortable place with food of their own that they can gather themselves. And the hard reality is, if there's one or two left that just refuse to do it, the mama bird kicks them out. And if they fly, they live, and if they don't, they die. So that's an allegory. That is an image that I think the leftists in this country need to pay attention to. That as long as the unwashed masses, as long as the 9-to-5ers who hold this country together can come home, kick their shoes off, and relax without fire on their block, without SWAT teams in their neighborhoods, without chaos, without punishment and distraction, without their television shows and their sporting events being bombarded with communist propaganda and activism. If you can just leave them people, they'll stay asleep. They'll probably keep voting for you. They'll keep churning out the money. They'll keep producing for you. But if you continue to upset the apple cart, if you continue to remove the padding from the nest that is this country, if you continue to lock us down, continue to make us unemployed, continue to print bogus fiat fake money in the form of these handouts so that anybody who actually has money, their money is worth less, okay? When you print more, their money is worth less, all right? And it's like counterfeiting. When you counterfeit, you can, in World War II, counterfeiting currency of the enemy was one of the number one priorities of every side. We printed as much German money as we can put out there. We'd print fake German money and try to buy stuff with it, by the truckload. And they were doing the same thing to us. It's actually a method of war, okay? to devalue the enemy's currency. So they're imploding our country by devaluing the currency and giving all of this. And it'd be one thing if it was actually going to families who needed it, all this money they're printing, and to give out these stimuluses. They're not stimulating. How many of you have gotten only 1,200 or not even the 1,200? I didn't get the 1,200. Okay. How many of you didn't get any of that? Right? Or only all you got was 1,200 for the whole year? Where people like Elon Omar's husband, I think it was her husband or her brother. Yeah, his company received like $200,000 or $300,000 of the stimulus money. It didn't go to the people that needed it. It's if you look at it, this whole thing has made the rich richer and the poor poorer and destroyed the middle class. Everybody is out of work, relying on the government, living off their savings. By printing more money, they're destroying your savings like mine. I should just take what little bit of money I got left and just buy food with it. But then I don't know how I'd pay the electric bill. So, because, if you can spend it now, if you have savings, spend it now on things that will stay at the same price or actually go up in price as inflation causes them to go up in price, as the money is devalued. Because that's what's going to happen now that we got a Democrat in there. They're just going to throw fiat currency at this thing and try to make everybody happy. And it will make you happy for a minute till you see the hyperinflation kick in. So smart people who are tired of being targeted by the left, we're tired of our congressmen failing us, we're tired of our senators failing us. Our president, we finally got a president there that worked for us, but he ended up failing by, I believe, no fault of his own, right? He's just outnumbered in the swamp, and he ain't that great a swimmer. He had good intentions, right? And I think at this point, if you're still on board with Q, man, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona that you really should check out. I could really use an investor in this new thing where you just give me your money and I keep it indefinitely, and I just give you a little bit of it back whenever you need it. And I'm going to get 1,000 guys to do the same thing. Oh, wait, they call that a Ponzi scheme. I'll figure out something. I have a bridge. Have you considered purchasing the Golden Gate Bridge? So if you are still following Q, when are you going to wake up? When are you going to wake up? Because according to Q, Trump wasn't supposed to lose. According to Q, this is all supposed to be worked out for you. How's your popcorn tasting now? How's that indent in the couch fitting your butt now? All you sit around and eat popcorn cures. I hate to start wars with you, but it's time that you stood up and admitted you're wrong. Because no one came to our rescue. No one stopped the steal. Here comes you-know-who and you-know-who. And they're going to do you-know-what to all of us. So you can bend over and grab your ankles, or you can just join the resistance. Let's stand with our states, and let's see if we can get them to be heroes and to do something that no modern man has done, and create a new republic in the United States. I could care less if I ever went to California, the land of fruit and nuts again. They can keep all their exports, including their Hollywood exports. I could care less if I ever smelt the stinky stank of New York City. I've been told that place reeks. You go there from any other place in the world, and the first thing you notice when you get out of the airplane is it smells like poo-poo. Same thing, I can say the same thing about LA. I went to LA when I was, the only time I've ever been there, I went there when I was 11 years old. And as soon as the sun was coming up, we drove all night to get down there, and the sun was coming up, and you could see the smog, the sun filtering through the smog. And we'd had the windows rolled down as we'd been coming through the, Central California. And as we topped the hill and kind of came down into that LA basin and you could see that smog, my brother-in-law rolled the windows down and goes, "Take a whiff of that." And it just smelled like methane, man. It just smelled like my sprinkler smell when I don't get the chlorine in the system, when my aerobic septic system sprinkles. It just smells like liquid poo. So it would be no skin off of my nose If I never went to any of these places, I got no desire to drive to them. I hate to see Oregon lost, and I know a lot of Oregonians feel the same way. But if you want to know the truth, the best part of Oregon got burned up last year. I haven't been back there since the fires, but I've been told all the things that I visited, all of the if you when I was living in Oregon, if you came to visit me and you looked around the city and you went, "Oh, it's kind of cool. It's like any other city." I'd be like, "Let me show you my state." And I'd put you in my little gas sipping Toyota, and I would show you some of the most beautiful places in the world are in that state. They're gone. I couldn't take you to those places now. They're just smoldering, burning remnants of what they used to be. 100-year-old buildings gone. Stores I've been going to since I was a baby gone. Fishing holes never to be used again. The lakes are poisoned from the ash and the chemicals they use to fight it. I mean, if we had another 100 years, it might come back. It'll never come back in my lifetime. So, let the lefties have it. They ruined it anyway. They took the emerald jewel of the United States of America and turned it into a communist cesspool. Apparently, they've started a new autonomous zone, I think, in Portland, and they got 300 people squatting in an abandoned house. There's more. I'm going to do a video on that. More of that's to come. But I believe we have three choices. Become the underclass victims, become the Hunger Game victims, where we just have to sacrifice our brightest and youngest and best to the voracious, cannibalistic city-state governments that control things. We can succumb to that. We can take this division, disagreement, and disenfranchisement and capitalize on it. And the 20 states that signed on to that lawsuit can just secede from the Union and start a new republic, the Republic of Jefferson, or we could call it the New Republic of North America. I don't care. You make up the name and the flag. But I'm hoping that my generation and the generations younger than me, because I'm getting kind of long in the tooth, I hope that we have the inner fortitude, the spine, the backbone to capitalize on this disagreement and call for a peaceful dissolvement of the Union. Dissolve the Union. Let the states that no longer want to participate create their own country, a country based on the Constitution, and let the leftists try their new utopia. Okay, and we'll negotiate how to divide up the toys and what happens with our military. If you the leftist, try to make us pay, if your soldiers try to make us pay, when that lady was talking, when that state representative of Michigan, when the bald-headed freak was talking about soldiers making us pay, she wasn't talking about the military. She was talking about Antifa. Antifa call their soldiers. Black call their street level black bloc. Antifa is called soldiers. It's how they delineate them from the comrades. The comrades are protesters and human shields, instigators, right? But the hardcore guys with the hidden batons and the Molotov cocktails under their arm, under their jacket, those are called soldiers. And the same with the Black Lives Matter radicals. They're called soldiers. The militiamen don't call their people soldiers because some of them are Marines. Some of them are Navy SEALs or sailors. Some of them are airmen from the Air Force. You see, soldiers typically referred to in the American vernacular as members of the military who come from the United States Army. Those you refer to as soldiers. If you call a Marine a soldier, he might dot your I. If you call a airman a soldier, he's going to lecture you and tell you that you are mistaken. I'm an airman, not a soldier. So the NFAC which I won't even go down that road. They call their militiamen soldiers, okay? And because the Black Panther Party called their radicals soldiers. So this is who this woman is talking about. She's talking about the radical, leftist, militant arm of the Democratic Party. Those are the people she's calling on, to those soldiers who know how to do it and know how to do it right, to follow their orders and make us pay. I'm sorry, I just don't see a world where a person like that doesn't get some kind of backlash for that. Now, they pulled her off of her committees, blah, 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 but she should be recalled for making a statement like that. And you know what? The Michigan governor defended her, right? And then after that, the original lady come back on and doubled down on it. It was even more ugly. I won't even give you the quote on that. She was even more like, what are you going to do to me? Come on, bring it on. This is where I live. Come to my house. With everything that went on with the Michigan governor, she better not get too cocky. I think there's some old boys there that still got some unfinished business with their state government, especially over this lockdown thing. But nonetheless, we'll see how that plays out. They're going to get away with it. They got away with the steal. The courts are in their pocket. Chinese money goes a really long ways when they throw it around by the bucket load. I don't know that we're going to be able to do anything but just endure. I know this. My back is against the wall. I found a crevasse like a tick, and I've crawled down in this crevice like a tick, and I've buried myself in, and I'm going to cover myself with firewood and sandbags. And pity the fool that messes with this old Marines kid, because I've had enough of your crap, and you are not going to pay me back. You aren't going to make me pay. You aren't going to put me on a list. You aren't going to come after me, buddy. Well, you might. And then again, it might be the last thing you ever do. God save our republic. Wolverine!